Yes.
You were cranking that air horn
Hey, man.
like Soldier Boy last night.
Hey, I ain't know I had to. I ain't know it was gonna be that long, man. I almost ripped my rotator cuff off. Nah, I was fine. Yesterday was wonderful. Had a great time. Went with a good friend of mine, Gerard, and the Predators. I haven't ever had a bad experience with them, and I don't expect to ever have a bad experience with them. But they are first class in all that they do. From hosting, which we were up, you know, in some in a good area, in some good seats. There was some good seats, but whether it was hosting or allowing me the privilege to be a part of what they're doing for their fans, it was outstanding. So I thank them first and foremost. Jarek, thank you. I appreciate it. So they made everything smooth, but I had fun. Unfortunately, the Preds lost, and that's a bummer. But outside of that, I had a good time at the game.
The Predators lose 5-4 in overtime to the Vancouver Canucks last night. The Predators rally from a 4-2 deficit in the third period, but Brock Besser with a buzzer beater in overtime for the Canucks. We will catch up with Predators GM Barry Trotz at 5 o'clock, and we will join up with Willie Donick momentarily. But the NFL trade deadline has come and gone. Paul Kaharski of paulkaharski.com tweeted 10 minutes ago, quote, "No further deals for the Titans. They are finished in more ways than one. They are 1-8 after all." But the Tennessee Titans made one trade ahead of the deadline. It happened shortly after we got off the air last night. The Tennessee Titans traded Draymond Jones to the Baltimore Ravens, continuing that Tennessee to Baltimore pipeline, Derek Mason, something you know quite a bit about. Draymond Jones from Tennessee to Baltimore for a 2026 conditional fifth-round pick that can become a fourth-round pick. Now, the conditions were not reported on until today. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated was the first reporter I saw with the details on the conditions. He says, quote, "Interesting condition on the Ravens-Titans trade. If Draymond Jones has at least 2 sacks over the rest of the regular season and Baltimore makes the playoffs, Tennessee gets a fourth-round pick rather than a fifth-rounder from the Ravens." And Draymond Jones, 4.5 sacks over the past 4 weeks, had a career-high 8 quarterback pressures, including 1.5 sacks against the Chargers on Sunday. So the Ravens are trying to make a bit of a comeback in the AFC North after a rough start. This seems like it's quite doable, Derek Mason, for Draymond Jones to get 2 more sacks and the Ravens to make the playoffs. Your thoughts on the return for Draymond Jones going from Tennessee to Baltimore?
I thought it was, maybe, I guess, in a sense, if I would understand if they just said a fifth round pick. I would think, oh man, that's a good return on your investment, so to speak. But it's a great return on investment if they can get a fourth round pick. And it's almost as if the Baltimore Ravens were saying, hey, listen, we can't, but if this happens, we can up it. If he gets 2 sacks, which it seems like he's been on a heater as of lately, and that defense is aggressive and they want to get to the quarterback and they have better players, you would almost assume, barring injury, he gets to two sacks and maybe even get it in this week's game. I think they got a bye week. So next week's game. And then if they make the playoffs, they're looking at it from the standpoint of their division. No one has ran away with division. I know Pittsburgh sits at the top of the division, but no one has ran away with the division. So them winning the division, making the playoffs, and him getting 2 sacks is more likely than none of those things happen. So I think they got a great return on investment for Draymond Jones, because I didn't think he would, get a fourth round pick, a fifth round pick, let alone a fourth round pick. But you got the fifth round pick in your pocket. That's good. And if he gets 2 more sacks and the Ravens make the playoffs, and you may know by week, 14 or 15 whether they made the playoffs. So you can count that fifth being a fourth. So it was great movement by Borgonzi.
The Baltimore Ravens are 3-5. They are 2 games back of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC North. The Steelers are 5-3. The Ravens are 3-5. Cincinnati is 3-6. Cleveland is 2-6. We welcome in Willie Donick live from Minnesota. Willie, your thoughts on the return for Draymond Jones, a conditional 5th-round pick that can become a 4th-rounder if Draymond Jones has 2 more sacks and Baltimore makes the playoffs.
I would say not bad. Derek talked about it. It's realistic that they could still make the playoffs despite the really bad stretch that the Ravens have gone through. And I think it's pretty reasonable. He could get 2 sacks if he goes in there and plays like he can play. So it's not a bad deal. It's the kind of deal they should be looking to make. It's going to be very interesting to watch that race in that division because I don't think the Steelers are that great, and the Bengals are still hoping to get Joe Burrow back. I'm sure if they can be in it by the time he does. But I think the Ravens are looking at it and saying it's still our division to win. So it's not like they're unlikely to make the playoffs. I think the Ravens still are a pretty good bet to make the playoffs if they can get healthy.
The Ravens' remaining schedule for kicks and giggles: at Minnesota, at Cleveland, home to the Jets, and we'll get to the Jets. Don't you worry. We'll get to the Jets in a little bit. At Minnesota, at Cleveland, home to the Jets, home to the Bengals, home to the Steelers, at the Bengals, home to the Patriots, at the Packers, at the Steelers. That is their remaining schedule. So
it's tough. They got some good. I mean, those division games are the games that are more important. And they
all
still
but one. They've only played one division game.
Exactly. So that's a good thing for them. Pittsburgh has played, I think, 2 or 3 division games, 2 division games. So they are ahead because of that. That's one of the reasons they're ahead in the division, because it's how do you finish in the division, and then it's okay, at least go 50-50, outside of the division. If you win your division, lose no less than say 1 game, but you win half of your games outside of the division, then you should be in a good spot. And I think that's where the Ravens, because they haven't played but 1 division game, that's where they sit in a good seat. Again, I think, looking at it long term and the potentials of this, what can happen to make this trade even better, I think this is what helps teams, start to head in the right direction. When you can get a 5th-round pick for a guy that probably wouldn't have, fielded you a 6th-round pick at the beginning of the season. But you get a 5th-round pick, but a 5th conditional 4th conditional 5th, or 5th conditional 4th, if he gets 2 sacks or they make the playoffs. So I think I would give this a gold star for Borgonzi. I'm not saying who they're going to pick because of it, but I'm saying to be able to make a move like this with a guy that at the beginning of the season, would you have gotten the 5th rounder? No, you wouldn't have. But because of the way he's played, you're getting the 5th, but then it also can become a 4th if all of these 2 escalators he meets.
So it's been reported by Paul Kaharski of paulkaharski.com that the Titans are done. We know how this works at the NFL trade deadline, at the NHL trade deadline, any trade deadline. There are trades that get made at the buzzer that aren't announced until way after the actual deadline is passed. But at least according to Paul Kaharski, there are no such deals waiting in the wings. That's right, for the Tennessee Titans. So when we're looking at the trades the Titans have made this season, they've made 3. Draymond Jones to Baltimore for a conditional 5th-round pick in 2026. Jarvis Brownlee for a 6th-round pick in 2026. And Roger McCreary for a conditional 5th-round pick in 2026. Those draft picks aren't going to make the ultimate difference in getting this team back to respectability, but they can help. You can take some swings on some players later in the draft. You can acquire veteran players with those draft picks. You can package those draft picks to move up in the draft. So unfortunately, the Titans did not make a splash like the New York Jets did twice today. And again, we will talk about what the Jets did and why the hell the Titans didn't do those same things. But Willie, what do you make of the overall returns that the Titans have received for Brownlee, McCreary, and Draymond Jones ahead of the trade deadline this season?
Well, I think you have to separate the three. I think the Jones move is not a bad move. Jones, I think, came on in the last few weeks. I think he was a player that probably wasn't on the radar 4 weeks ago. But if you look at his last 2 or 3 games, I think he stood out and played very well. And he's not known as being a great edge rusher, but I think he's a good edge player. He's just a solid guy to add to a good team. So that's a pretty good return on investment. The other two, as I've said, I think they were more or less giveaways of players that I think are not super easily replaced. Defensive backs that play a lot aren't easy to find. And so I was puzzled by the McCreary trade and the Brownlee trade. I don't think they got much, if anything, for either one of those. I would not have done either one. But, of course, I don't know what's going on the inside of the operation, what they know about these guys. But I was puzzled by each of the two. I like the Jones move. And now it sets David by what has gone on today. I think we now have a clearer picture of what the market is. So I think it makes it look even worse what they got for McCreary and for Brownlee based on what other teams are getting for players.
Derek, how many missed opportunities do you think were left out there by the Tennessee Titans? Again, we don't know which players the Titans were shopping, which players the Titans were being called about. There have been reports about those players. We talked about Devondre Sweat a lot yesterday. We've mentioned Tony Pollard. We've mentioned Arden Key. We, of course, have mentioned Jeffrey Simmons. We don't know how close the Titans got to trading any of those players. But how many players who are still on the Titans roster do you wish weren't still on the Titans roster based on the inactivity of the Titans at the trade deadline?
I mean, I wish all these guys were playing better. That's what I wish. I don't want to wish that no one's on the team or on the Titans team, but here's the thing. Because we're looking at all these trades, and yeah, they could have traded away Calvin Ridley. I would have liked to see Calvin Ridley go somewhere where he can be a number 2, where he can be in his proper role, his best role. I think he maximized the most out of himself, I think, if he's that number 2 and that pressure is not on him. So just for that alone, I would have liked, because I've always liked Calvin Ridley, even when he was in college. So to see him prosper somewhere else in his real role, that's what I wanted to see, because the Titans want him to be a number 1, and he's not that guy. He's not on the field. He's been on and off the field since he's been here. He's inconsistent. That's not the traits of a number 1 wide receiver. First is you got to be available, and he just hasn't been available, as much as we would love for him to be available, especially with the young quarterback underneath center. So Calvin Ridley is a guy that I would have liked to see go to a contender and see him play I believe, what is his proper role, being the number 2 and excelling at that. Jeff, same thing with Jeff. This is going to be a rebuild, and it's going to take a minute. I don't want, like, Myles Garrett, he's good with where he's at. He got the money. He said, forget that. I don't care about a championship. I got the money. I'm fine. Maybe they trade me after about 2 or 3 years, and I can get half of my money. I can go somewhere else and win a championship the last 2 years. I think he's fine. I'm not sure Jeffrey is fine with just getting money and sitting. I'm not. I hope that they can get a deal worked out with him and that he remains a Titan, but that means potentially not making the playoffs for the next 2 to 3 years for Jeff. Is he okay with that? I don't think he's okay with that. So if I'm thinking that way, then Jeff is another guy that I would have loved to see move, not because I don't think he would be a good player here. I don't want it. It's because I want to see him succeed and win a championship somewhere else, because it doesn't seem like the Titans are close to it right now. And it seems like when they do get close, they're going to be phasing him out anyway. So I would have liked to see it for that reason, not because, oh, trade him this or no, for that reason. But they didn't do it. The market is telling you that, yeah, we saw Quentin Williams get that, but he and Sauce Gardner, Sauce Gardner was considered one of the best, if not the best defensive back, at one point in a very young career. He's fell off the map, but they believe, hey, listen, we just paid him this money. We can trade him off. We get 2 first-round draft picks. You talk about a top 3 player. So if you're going to trade for a top 3 player, they drafted him, what, 3rd, 2nd, 4th, somewhere around there?
Sauce Gardner?
Yeah.
Was 4th overall, if I am not
so
mistaken.
You got to give up a lot to get a guy at that level. Quentin Williams, the same thing. He's a top 10 pick. You got to give up that much to get a guy like that. Unfortunately, Jeffrey wasn't a top 10 pick, and Jeff's hurt. So maybe they offered, I'll give you a 2nd round. And Ty said, hell no. No. He's worth the 1st round.
But
I'm not going to
understand that they weren't even shopping him.
But what I'm saying is that maybe they came to the table and said, how about Jeff? We give up a 2nd round for him. And they said, no, he's not.
But how do we
on the
know
market.
that? If they were saying,
but we don't know if they did
shopping.
Or we don't know if they didn't. But I'm not going to get on I'm not going to make it a Titans thing. Like, if they didn't offer, I'm not going to give Jeffrey away for a 2nd round pick. I'm just not. I'm not going to.
It is a failure not to shop him after seeing what Williams.
Okay,
got,
if you shop
how
him,
could you not shop him around?
But what I'm thinking, if you
somebody
shop
would
him,
give you that.
If I shop my car around and somebody's only willing to give me $20,000 for, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna keep it.
But you don't know until you shop it.
Well, maybe they did take the calls. They didn't.
We don't
reach
know.
out to people.
They say they didn't. They're telling me they didn't. I'm going by what they're saying.
People,
even though they say they want high picks.
No, what I'm saying is that
they say they want a bunch of top 100
people
picks.
Called
they
them.
Say they're not shopping their best commodity.
I'm sure people called them. Just because I'm not shopping my car doesn't mean somebody didn't ask me, hey, what would you take for that car? It doesn't mean that. But I am not actively trying to sell my car. But if you offer me something I can't refuse, then I'm going to take it. But I'm not going to sit here. I'm not going to seem like the one that's desperate. You want my guy. Okay?
Who would you rather have, Quentin Williams or Jeffrey Simmons?
Jeffrey Simmons has had a better season this season than Quentin Williams.
But
Jeffrey Simmons is injured.
I don't know who's the better player. Quentin Williams had 12 sacks 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
This season, Simmons has been the better player than Quentin Williams. If you're only looking at this season.
They're basically same age, same draft.
Same age, same draft. But the one guy was drafted much higher than the other.
But that doesn't matter.
Yes, it does matter.
That was years ago. That doesn't matter.
In the NFL, Willie, in the NFL, if you haven't bottomed out, if you are Quentin Williams, that does mean something. If I was a top 4 or 5 pick, that does mean something when I go to trade a guy away when he's still playing excellent football. I can't use that as my leverage too. Like, hey, listen, he's playing well, and you're gonna have to give me up. You're gonna have to give me something. You're gonna have to give me more than a 2nd round pick for that, or more than 1 first round pick. That's all I'm saying.
If the Titans did not throw their hat in the ring to Dallas and see what they would have offered for Simmons as opposed to Williams, that is malpractice. They should have been working that. And if they didn't get in on that, that's a mistake by them. I think Jeffrey Simmons is better than Quentin Williams. I'm probably biased. And, of course, the health factor in this moment is a factor for sure. But unless Jeffrey Simmons has blown out his hamstring and is out for the rest of the year, I think Jeffrey Simmons is a guy I'd rather have than Williams. But if they're not even in the game and you see what Dallas just gave up for Quentin Williams, that's just not good. That's not good use of assets to me by the Titans.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will take your reaction to the NFL trade deadline. The Titans made one trade right before the deadline. It was yesterday, but right before today's deadline. Draymond Jones traded to Baltimore for a 5th round pick that can become a 4th round pick if Jones has at least 2 more sacks this regular season and Baltimore makes the playoffs. We'll also get your thoughts on the Cowboys acquiring Quentin Williams from the Jets and whether the Titans were stupid for not even considering, reportedly, trading Jeffrey Simmons. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. We are presented by Bax Homeworks, which transforms kitchens, bathrooms, and living spaces into places you can't wait to come home to. Get a free estimate at baxhomeworks.com. All right. Let's talk about what the New York Jets did today. First, the Jets traded Sauce Gardner to the Indianapolis Colts for 2 first-round picks, and wide receiver A.D. Mitchell. And we'll get to that. But let's talk about the other trade the New York Jets made today. They traded defensive tackle Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys. They received a 2026 second-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and defensive tackle Mazi Smith. And that first-round pick, according to Adam Schefter, will be the higher of the Cowboys' 2 first-round picks in 2027, their own or Green Bay's. So a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and Mazi Smith, I don't know much about him, but I believe he hasn't lived up to expectations. He's relatively young, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. He is 24. He was the first-round pick of the Cowboys in 2023. So a change of scenery candidate there in Mazi Smith. But as soon as I saw that trade, I'm sure I reacted the same way all of you reacted. Couldn't the Tennessee Titans gotten that same deal from the Dallas Cowboys for Jeffrey Simmons? We were comparing Quinnen Williams to Jeffrey Simmons before the break. If you recall, every summer, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN.com talks to league executives, coaches, scouts, football people, and he ranks the top 10 players at every position. This summer, Jeffrey Simmons was number 4 on the list of the best defensive tackles. Quinnen Williams was 5th on the list of best defensive tackles. Quinnen Williams has 40 sacks since entering the NFL in 2019, which ranks 5th among primary defensive tackles, according to ESPN, behind Chris Jones, Aaron Donald, DeForest Buckner, and Cam Hayward. So 40 sacks for Quinnen Williams. Jeffrey Simmons, who entered the league in the same year, has 36 sacks since 2019. But Jeffrey Simmons has been more impactful this season than Quinnen Williams. And y'all remember the reports that were coming out over the past couple of weeks about how the Tennessee Titans were poo-pooing any trade involving Jeffrey Simmons. He was off limits. And Willie, you said this in our group chat before the show, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. The Jets look like they're doing the smart thing. The Jets stink, just like the Tennessee Titans stink. And although it's hard to find a Sauce Gardner out there, it's hard to find a Quinnen Williams out there, the Jets seemingly understand that they aren't going anywhere. The Jets are 1-7, by the way. They realize they're not going anywhere with Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. So you cut bait, get back a lot of draft capital. The New York Jets now have 3 first-round picks in 2027. So, Willie, why aren't the Titans thinking the same way? Why are they refusing, or why did they refuse to trade Jeffrey Simmons?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I have said, going back into the summer, one of my top 10 Titans questions was, will the Titans trade Jeffrey Simmons? Every time we've brought that up, it has been a very spirited discussion. And at the end of the day, we argued whether you could get a first-round pick, let alone a first-round pick and something else. I was saying he would be worth trading for a first-round pick and something else, which is exactly what the Jets got. The Jets are not known for being smart. They're one of the dumbest teams in the NFL over the last 30, 40 years. Fair to say, they're not a well-run organization when you get down to it.
No.
But they have done what they need to do to at least give themselves a chance to regroup. They thought they were good. They swung and missed with Aaron Rodgers, because they did with Quinnen Williams and with Sauce Gardner and some other guys. They had a pretty good defense at a time when Robert Saleh was there. They couldn't put it all together. The quarterback thing was a whiff. And now they at least are smart enough to realize that this group isn't going anywhere, so they need to reset again, as painful as it is. But the Titans told you, they were on the record, we need top 100 picks. Jeffrey Simmons could have gotten them 2, at least. And not only did they not do it, they took him off the board. If you were to believe everything they say, they said two things on the record. On the record, we're not trading Jeffrey Simmons. Also on the record, we need top 100 picks. That makes no sense to me.
I get it. I'm trying to, because Quentin Williams, his contract runs through 2028, but they have an out in 27. Jeffrey Simmons wants a new contract now. He hadn't come out and say it, but he has this year and next year left on his deal. He really, next year, they need to get something done this offseason for him to remain a Titan, I believe. And I think they will at some point. Maybe teams are not willing to re-up on another huge contract. That also comes with trading an individual. Maybe Quinn Williams, they're looking at him and saying he's probably, from a cost-effective standpoint, he's probably a guy that we can take on the contract, keep it, and not have to try to do things to finagle the salary cap in no way. Maybe he's a guy that we can work with. It's not just, picks. It's we got to give him a new contract, possibly, at the end of all this. If I'm giving up 2 first-round picks, he's going to remain on my team. So signing a deal with him probably may be easier than you would have to sign with Jeffrey Simmons. And maybe you don't have to do it. Jeff is going to want a new contract after this season. He's playing like it. He's going to want it. He's earning it, especially once he get back on the field. Maybe teams are not ready to position themselves to re-up on a big contract for a guy that's almost in his 30s. We got to think about all this. We can't just think about, well, they didn't solicit him
but teammates, they said they didn't even try. They didn't even shop him. How do we even know what they were thinking?
I get that, but I'm not
having these discussions.
I'm not gonna get myself hung up on what they said. I'm not, because we know the Titans have said plenty of things, and it's been contrary to anything. So yes, we can be hung up on their wording and say, oh, they told everybody they weren't going to trade him no matter what. But I guarantee you, had 2 first-round picks came across their table, you can't tell me that they wouldn't have had to pause. People are saying, Dallas, this is a bad trade. This is a bad trade for the Cowboys. They shouldn't have made it. Because, again, you're giving up 2 first-round picks, a first and a second, and a player for a guy that's aging. So I can't sit here and be hung up on the Titans saying they were not going to even listen to it. Phone calls. I can't get hung up on that. I got to think about the other stuff.
I want to know if they were on the phone with Dallas trying to make that same deal. The Titans should make that deal 10 times out of 10.
They can call.
Bargaining back and forth. They should have been going, hey, what will you give us? We'll give you Simmons. Have them evaluate Simmons.
Well, maybe they thought Simmons was worth 2 first-round picks.
Contract money.
What if they thought Simmons is worth, hey, listen, if you want to talk business, you want to talk shop, it starts at 2 first-round picks. Then what do you say? If I don't want to move out my 2 first-round, if Dallas, if you want to give me a second now and a first later, no. I want a first now and a first later. If you can't deal with that, hang up the phone. And maybe Dallas hung up the phone.
Hypotheticals here.
So, that's exactly.
That question needs to be asked to Mike Barganzi and Chad Brinker tomorrow. Mm-hmm. If they're having a press conference, were you in on this, or did you do what you said you were going to do and not even put them on the market? Because that is a missed opportunity to get a first-round pick and other assets for a guy that you're hard-pressed to think. As you said, he's going to be an expensive part of your roster to keep. Your roster with him isn't good. It's one of the worst in the league. And by the time you could build a roster, he will be into his 30s and probably not the player he is today. I don't think his trade value is going to go up anytime soon. And you had a taker for a guy of his caliber in Quentin Williams. I think Jeffrey Simmons is better than Quentin Williams. I don't know if Jerry Jones would have thought that Simmons was a guy he would prefer over Williams, but we'll never know if they never even put him on the market.
No, I get that part, but I'm not going to be hung up on, them saying they were not shopping Jeffrey Simmons. They probably were not shopping him. They probably were not taking initial calls. But I have to believe there was somebody that called and said, hey, listen, why I got you on the phone, what about this for Jeffrey? Well, no. Okay. If you're not offering me 2 first-round picks, then don't ask me about my guy. I don't care what. I'm not trying to appease anybody. My car, I know what my car is worth. If you ain't gonna give me that, get out my face. I don't care
if they offered you, if Jerry Jones called you and offered you that deal for Jeffrey Simmons, would you have taken it?
If I thought I was going to get if I wanted 2 draft or first round
exactly
picks,
what they offered. Exactly what they offered.
No, you
okay.
No, I can't answer that question because in my mind I want 2 first round picks. So
you would have said
no. I would have taken it. I would have.
So basically, I'm standing on business. You give me 2 first round picks, or you not getting my guy.
Okay,
plain and simple.
For the record,
I would have had a 5-minute conversation. That's what you're offering, a first and a second. Done. I would have said done. It's over.
Okay, but if again in this business, if you're not giving me 2 first round picks for my guy, then okay. All right, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it, not one bit.
So you would not have accepted the exact trade that the Cowboys made with the Jets. If it was the same offer, literally the same offer. The first
That's
round
a hypothetical. No, I am not. Have y'all heard me? I haven't mixed my words or anything else. It's a hypothetical. Hell no, I am not giving. I'm not taking that trade. You can't sway me one side or the other. It's a hypothetical. I want 2 first round picks. Damn it, give me 2 first round picks. If you're not giving me 2 first round picks, hang up the phone, call somebody else.
Okay, Adam, would you have taken the deal? Would you?
Hell yeah, I would have taken that deal.
I would have taken.
Hell yeah. I very much was on team trade Simmons.
Listen, I am not saying you guys are wrong. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, if I'm in that seat and I said Jeffrey Simmons, he's worth 2 first round picks, I'm standing on business. Because listen, either you're gonna give him to me or you're not. If you're not, step to the side. I may be able to get two first round picks later on, or I may be able to get a first and a conditional second that moves up to a first later on, right before the draft. See, y'all are thinking about now. This thing is not done. This movie isn't over. It's just we halfway through. Things can be done right around draft time, and we've seen it done. We saw it done here. With AJ, we talked about AJ getting traded and not signing a contract before he even got traded. And what happened? They didn't do it then, but they waited to trade him later. So, again, it can happen. And maybe what if, and since y'all want to give ifs and hypotheticals, what if right before the draft they say, give me a first and a second? You going to take it then? Then it's like, okay, what are you going to offer me? So would you take the same deal right before the draft?
To me,
would you? Because if you're saying you would take it now, you would take it later.
Probably,
so what's the big deal? Okay, so what's the big deal?
I think I would.
So what's the big deal? The movie isn't over. It's not.
So what you're saying is we're still waiting for that post-credit scene.
Exactly.
The credits might
we're still sitting there.
The credits might be rolling, but we're waiting for the post-credit
movie, okay?
scene.
This is a Marvel movie.
Okay. Woo! 615-737-1025. Deep breath, everyone. 615-737-1025. A question that I sometimes ask myself in my head. Is Derek nuts? 615-737-1025. Your reaction. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
All right, let's tell you about Loan Pronto. Remember, at Loan Pronto, they're delivering the lowest rates in 3 years. So there's 2 ways you can apply that to yourself. You can use the Loan Pronto Rapid Equity Loan. You can get cash out of your home's equity in as little as 3 days, pay off high interest credit cards, skip your next 2 house payments. Or you can just get a better home mortgage rate. If you got stuck with a high mortgage rate in the last few years, likely Loan Pronto could beat it right now. And so that's going to save you money every month. And also, you could skip your next 2 house payments. So call Loan Pronto, see how much money you can save today. 615-499-5780. Or go to loanpronto.com. Get that free instant home appraisal. See how much cash you're eligible for. Or like I said, see how much money you could save each month with a better mortgage rate. Loan Pronto is A+ rated with the BBB, nearly 2,500 5-star reviews. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit. Visit NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Is Derek crazy? It's a question I ask myself every now and then. But you just heard Derek passionately turning down the Cowboys trade offer. The question we had, Willie and I had for Derek was, if the Cowboys would have offered you exactly what they gave up for, if the Cowboys would have offered you what they were going to give up for Quinnen Williams, if I spit that out correctly, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a young defensive tackle, would you have taken that deal? Derek, you said, no way, Jose.
Let's say hell no.
You said, hell no.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me, people.
That's okay. Hell's not a bad word.
No.
At least in my opinion, it's not. Here are what our texters have to say about this. One texter named Brett says, "Hey guys, Brett here. Moved to Nashville 5 months ago. Jets fan. D-Mace, love ya. But are you kidding? Titans are moronic for not trying to get a first and second now for Simmons. Jets were smart for once. How could you not stockpile 1 million picks pre-new stadium?" Neil says, "D-Mace, this movie is straight up canceled. The Titans are trash. Simmons, in your words, is having the best year of his career, and the Titans are 1-8. He isn't helping this team win. Trade him and look to the future." Joey from Bellevue says, "D-Mace needs to take it easy. Willie needs his voice later to call the Preds game."
I want to ask all these people, because Willie said it, and I in this situation, I'm gonna say Willie speaks for the people. Y'all think Jeffrey Simmons is better than Quentin Williams, right?
This season, I would say
he's
so.
Better than Quentin Williams. Much better player than Quentin Williams. If he's a much better player than Quentin Williams, why in the hell would I sell myself short? If you're going to give them that for him, and I think my player is better, why would I take that, people? That's all I'm saying. And that is what Jeffrey Simmons having. I even said it. I think he has shown to be this season the best from what I've seen. And I didn't see much of Quinn Williams this season. I didn't watch the Jets. Why would I? But from what I've seen, he's outside of Myles Garrett, he's been the best interior guy. If I think that, then I'm not taking 1 and a 2 this year and a 1 next. Why? That's all I'm saying. If y'all think that Jeffrey Simmons is better than Quinn Williams, why wouldn't y'all want more? Y'all just gonna sell yourself short? I'm not about selling myself short, okay? I want what I want. 2 first-round picks. Damn it, you give it to me, you don't. Get off the phone. Next. That's it. I love our listeners, too. Hey, Willie, you look good with the suspenders on.
Oh, thanks. I think my rebuttal to that, Derek, would be that he has been hurt for 3 straight years. And your roster is so low. I think I agree. Hold out. If you think you can get more, great. I just don't know if it's realistic that you'll ever get more. Jerry Jones might be the one wacky owner that was willing to jump in and give you fair market value for Jeffrey Simmons at this stage of his career. And I do think Jeffrey Simmons is better than Quentin Williams, but they're about as similar as they come. Is that fair to say? They were drafted in the same year. They're almost exactly the same age. Their production is similar. So
Williams did have one. The only difference to me that stands out, at least just by quickly looking at Pro Football Reference, is that Quentin Williams had the double-digit sack season. He had a 12-sack season in 2022. Jeffrey Simmons has not had that, unless I am clearly misremembering. His career high in sacks is 8.5.
I wanted to have the Dallas Cowboys, because remember, we were talking about the Cowboys a few years ago in regards to Derrick Henry. Will the Cowboys make a trade? Will the Titans trade away Derrick Henry to the Cowboys? Will Derrick Henry go to the Cowboys ultimately? And Jerry Jones didn't want to bite on it for whatever reason. So it could be he just doesn't like doing business with the Titans. It could be just as simple as that. Because I don't think over the last 10 years have there been a Cowboy Titan, and transaction in regards to trades.
Not that I can think of.
And I'm not saying what I'm saying is this. Maybe because this is the second time the Cowboys name have came up within the last 3-4 years in regards to a Titans player. Hell, it was even A.J. Brown at one point. But the Dallas Cowboys wasn't interested for whatever reason. So maybe they just didn't, because like you said, it would be crazy for if he gave up a first and a second and a first, let's say that, because they get the second this year. If he gave that up for Quinn Williams, then why didn't he make the call to, regardless? You think Jerry Jones is going to listen when Amy or anybody in the Titans staff say, don't call me about it? No, he's not going to listen. He's still going to make the call if that's the guy he wants. Maybe he didn't want Jeffrey. Maybe he didn't want to do business with the Titans. It could be as simple as that.
By the way, one texter, Joey, points out that the Titans did trade Kenneth Murray to the Cowboys in
You're
March.
right. Yes.
So they do business
Yeah,
together.
They do business.
So there goes your whole theory out the window.
There's my theory.
Chuck it out the window.
Maybe he didn't like. Maybe he didn't think that Jeffrey Simmons. Again, it goes back to if Jerry Jones wants a player, then he's going to make the necessary calls to see if they can facilitate a trade. Maybe Jeffrey wasn't the guy that they wanted in the build. And I'm not saying something's wrong with Jeff, but I'm saying maybe he wasn't the guy. Maybe it was Quinn Williams that they wanted and not Jeffrey Simmons.
Let's go
We're throwing a lot of maybes out there.
Yeah, y'all threw out a what if, didn't y'all?
Okay, but
y'all threw out a what if.
Maybe they're saying what they did, which was they didn't shop him, and we'll never
Maybe
know what
it could be that too. We don't know. Well, we won't know until tomorrow.
Let's go to Wes and Hermitage on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Wes, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
What's up, guys? Hey, Derek, you do me a favor and bang that drum a little harder, please. I don't want to trade Simmons, but I do have a question for all of y'all. A couple of questions. How many leaders does an NFL team for any given season need? Like, how many leaders do you need to have in the locker room?
You need a handful of them. You do.
So who are the leaders on this team?
Outside of Jeff, and I don't want to slight anybody on the team, but outside of Jeff, I don't know. It could be, but I don't know.
That's my point. That's
you're
why
looking
you
for them.
keep him. You're trying to build this team up. You got to have some kind of leadership somewhere. We don't really have a whole lot of that. Jeffrey Simmons is, look, going into this season, I did not really care much for the guy, but you can tell that he's starting to mature a little bit now, and he's starting to grow up. I think the Titans need him for this rebuild. You can't just have a bunch of young cats come in here and just start going haywire. And look, Ward's going to be a good leader too, but his play has to accommodate that leadership, and right now it's not. Now, he can get better, but I think you've got to have a Jeffrey Simmons in order to start this thing and get it going in the right direction. I appreciate it, guys. Derek, keep on banging that drum, man. I've been saying it all season.
Hey, Wes, just so you know, Wes in Clarksville has texted and says, I don't agree with that, Wes. So Wes in Clarksville disagrees with Wes in Hermitage on the Jeffrey Simmons situation.
I'm Wes in Hermitage. But here's something that Wes did, that I agree with what he said about.
And
Jeffrey,
you do have, to be fair,
but
you do have some defenders in the text line. I will read them to you after you're done.
But he was right, because as he's talking, I'm thinking like, okay, when did it get really bad here? It was when they had a lack of leadership during that whole, and listen, Pat-Man has done well for himself afterwards, the image and everything. Kudos to him. Big, everything to him that he's been able to accomplish. But from what I was told, that locker room didn't have too many. They were devoid of leaders. And that's why the locker room was the way it was. One of the reasons. So if it was bad then, they had to make sure they had to, bring leaders into the locker room, and they added more leaders and the team started to change. But when you're trying to build a team, and I get it, Jeffrey is the guy that can, garner you the most. I get that part. And I'm agree with that. I'm in agreement with that. But you can't do that and leave a locker room with no leadership. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Spite your face, cut off your nose, spite your face. Yeah. So you can't, I understand, because of the rebuild, you want to say, give away Jeffrey Simmons. We'll get a first and a second for him. I get that part. But in the locker room, you know what's more important than the first and the second round pick? Having leadership in the locker room. Because we seen teams do it every year. They try to draft their way into success, and it don't work if you don't have the leadership in the locker room to cultivate those young guys and help develop those young guys. So if you don't have that, why even bring all these guys into a situation when nobody's ready to lead them, or the guy that's ready to lead, he's young. And I mean in Cam Ward. He's a rookie going into his second year. So when you think about, Wes was right, when you think about trading Jeffrey, you got to think about all of this. I could see if the Titans had a Byard or some other guys that showed they could be leaders, and maybe they wasn't playing at the level that we are accustomed to them playing, but they're still playing good. Then Jeffrey Simmons is more, and I hate to say it, use this word, but he's more expendable in a sense. But when you are devoid of when you have none of that, and the one guy that is showing leadership, why would you get away? And he's a good player. Why would you give him away? Why would you trade him? You got to think long and hard about trading a guy like that, because one thing I do know across every sport, I don't care if it's high school, whatever, if you don't have leadership in the locker room, you ain't going to have a locker room. You ain't going to have a good team.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction to the NFL trade deadline, your reaction to the Tennessee Titans not trading Jeffrey Simmons, your reaction to the Jets trading Quinnen Williams for what I think is a decent haul. Willie would agree with me. Derek completely disagrees. But we will take your reaction. We will get to it next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Derek Mason here, and if you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired, or better yet, replaced. Nothing like a shiny new helmet, I tell you. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event, or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Houston, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingen, Donick, 1025. The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, and David Janes here with you. Willie Donick will rejoin us during the 5 o'clock hour. He's got to head to the arena with the Nashville Predators. They take on the Minnesota Wild tonight, a 7 o'clock puck drop, 6 o'clock pregame right after our show. As always on 1025 The Game. Barry Trotz, Predators GM, will join us at 5 o'clock. So Willie will be back in time for that. Trevor Maddich will join us in about 20 minutes, and we will break down the NFL trade deadline with him. We'll also get his thoughts on the college football playoff rankings. The first edition of those college football playoff rankings come out later today. So we will get Trevor's thoughts on all of that. But we are talking Titans trade deadline. The Titans made one trade before the deadline, trading Draymond Jones to the Baltimore Ravens for a 2026 conditional 5th-round pick that can become a 4th-round pick if Draymond Jones records at least 2 more sacks this regular season and Baltimore makes the playoffs. Those are the conditions. I think those are attainable, which is nice. But what we've been talking a lot about today, the New York Jets. Not only did the Jets trade Sauce Gardner to the Colts for 2 first-round picks plus A.D. Mitchell, the Jets also traded defensive tackle Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys for a 2nd-round pick in 2026, a 1st-round pick in 2027, and young defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. According to ESPN, that 2027 1st-round pick, the Jets get the higher of the Cowboys' 2 first-round picks in 2027, either their own or Green Bay's, which was acquired in the Micah Parsons trade. And we've been talking about this in relation to Jeffrey Simmons because Willie and I, we would have easily accepted that same trade offer from the Dallas Cowboys. Derek, you said, hell no. Nah. You want 2 first-round picks. Otherwise, I'm hanging up. And most of our listeners think you're nuts. But some of them do agree with you. Ricky on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com, says the one guy who played in the league is the one I will trust on his opinion. D-Mace is the man. If you ask me, you still got to sell jerseys. You still got to have a player to market going into a new stadium. The quarterback hasn't caught on the way people prayed that he would. So Jeffrey is the selling point. So you do have some defenders, Derek. And I hear what you're saying about leadership. It's important for the Tennessee Titans to have leadership. There is a leadership void. There has been for the past couple of years since Derrick Henry left and Ryan Tannehill and Kevin Byard, among others. But as Willie has said for many months, and I agree with him, at this stage, really nothing should be off limits for the Tennessee Titans. I'll grant them Cam Ward because they just used the number 1 overall pick on him. So if you want to say Cam Ward is off limits, I'll give you that. But the Jets, I think the Jets are going about this the right way. The Jets are realizing we are 1-7. We aren't going anywhere. We're not going to be winning any more games with Sauce Gardner, multiple-time All-Pro at cornerback. We're not winning games with Quinnen Williams, one of the top defensive tackles in the NFL. So as hard as it is to find those players, we are going to trade them, recoup assets, premium assets, and hope that we can rebuild. Again, the Jets now have 3 first-round picks in 2027. So this is where it's hard for me to relate to you because I never spent 15 years in NFL locker rooms the way you did. So to me, it's easy to say Jeffrey Simmons is a good player on a bad team. They need to trade him. It's harder for me to relate to what you're saying just because I haven't lived in that world. But I am trying to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, listen, we understand that, he is the one guy that you can get, good value for. But he also is the one guy in the locker room that you look to for leadership. And it seems like he's taking that serious. And I understand people that say, well, what about, I get that, but it's the past. He's taking the leadership and ownership serious. He's taking it personal now. And you are a young team. And yes, you need picks. And Borgazzi said it as well as the supreme ruler of football, Brinker. They said at the beginning of the season, they want so many picks and you know, within the next couple of years in the top 100. So I get that part. But there is nuances to all of this. You know, yes, they want the picks, but is it worth giving up leadership that you don't have on your team? Or it would take the leadership that you have and diminish it greatly. And then it will put so much pressure on the guy that the pressure don't need to be on. And that's your starting quarterback, your rookie quarterback. Now it's up to him to be the leader. Okay? You can't force somebody into leadership. You just can't. Either they got it or they don't. You can't force them. They couldn't force Jeffrey to be a leader last year, 2 years ago. They tried that. It was when he took it personal that he became the leader. They don't have enough guys on this roster that they're going to depend on with enough experience. So, again, do you want to cut off your nose, spite your face? We can do that. You can get the picks. But what are picks when you have no leadership? I know they can. Well, you say, well, they can go out and get a free agent. How has the Titans done when it comes to free agency? They haven't done well. And I don't want to look to free agency for my leadership. They don't know this team like the guys here do. They hadn't been through what we've been through. His leadership may be different. It may come off different. So I'm not just going to say, I'm giving Jeff up. Yeah, we'll get a first and a second, or second and the first, second this year and the first year. Okay, we give it up. Now we got the picks. And then they draft and they have no leadership. Or the same thing that people are screaming, they will be screaming next year. They have no leaders in this locker room. They have none. They gave away the lead. And this is what people, see, I listen to people. I may not always react, but I do listen. And for weeks and months and over the last 2 years, since Derrick Henry left this building, since Kevin Byard left this building, Tannehill, there's no leadership. We ain't got no, where the leaders, where the leaders? And y'all were right, because I was screaming the same thing. I was trying to push a guy into leadership that just wasn't ready. He's taking it personal now. He's your leader. So now you're going to say, oh, now I forget it. Give him up. We don't care. Even though we've been crying and screaming, they ain't got no leaders, but we can give him up too. And then what are you going to be saying next year when the team, because this is going to be a process, people. Last year they were bad. A lot of people thought this year I was optimistic. A lot of people said they were going to be picking in the top 3 again. And where are they picking? In the top 3 again. It's going to be like that next year too. I'm telling you that. Unless the quarterback just completely does a 180, I think he will get better. But if he gets to that point where he alone are winning you games, then okay, you're good. But until that happens, you need your leaders in the locker room. I know a lot of people don't. I am telling you, show me a successful team or a successful company, and I'll show you a good leader. I'll show you a really good leader, or a few of them within the building. You can't have that much success continued without leadership. So what you're saying, I'll give away Jeffrey because he gave me a second and a first, and then now we got to try to find leaders. Well, I'd rather keep the leader that I got because he's still playing really good football, and I could have got this from him, but I want 2 first-round picks. If you ain't giving me that, then I'll keep my guy. We'll make it work around him.
A couple of texters have asked about Simmons' leadership. One texter says Simmons didn't even show up for camp, meaning OTAs. What's all this leadership talk? One texter says, how many wins has his leadership produced?
Don't tell me again. This is what don't tell me what he did back then. I don't want to hear that.
Doug and Franklin says he has no players to lead.
I don't want to hear what he did back in the day. Again, you were trying to make him a leader. He wasn't ready to be a leader. Y'all not hearing me.
I mean, it was only a couple of months ago.
when a guy, see, this is again, gosh, woosah. How did Jeffrey Simmons come back?
He was in great shape.
And he's the best player on the team, right?
Yes.
And he has been a leader, right? He's been the guy. He's been the voice. Everybody said, don't miss words. Not on. He's been the leader. He's been the face. He's been that dude for this organization. Now all of a sudden it's, don't worry about it. Where has this leadership got him? Well, when you have a leadership in place, you start to build. They got a leader in place in Jeffrey. You may not like him, but he's their leader. And he's playing really good football. And while these other guys, Cam Ward, that's really the only guy, Cam Ward, as he starts to mature and become a leader, then Jeffrey, and I hate to say the word, but then he becomes expendable. But right now, he's playing really good, and he's your leader. He's the leader. You give who are you going to look to then? Okay, go ahead and trade him. You traded him away. You got your picks. You might as well stop watching now. You just might as well.
I mean, I think a lot of people have already.
Yeah, they probably already have. But it's going to be like, people, well, they traded away Jeff, and now we have nobody to go see. I listen to people. I may not always react, but I listen to people. So I'm not sitting here saying, I'm just giving y'all my opinion. And I'm not saying that y'all are wrong. I'm just saying I'm giving y'all reasons why I wouldn't do it. And I'm also giving y'all examples of things that the fans have said and what I believe they will say. If that deal was, they'll like it now, just like Vrabel. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. And then what happened? I wish I had Vrabel. I wish he was back. See, y'all are fans, which is short for fanatics. We all are. That's all I'm saying. I like to make it lighthearted too. People don't think I'm, getting on y'all.
You don't have to apologize.
But that's all I'm saying, because I've seen this movie over and over, and I've seen this movie so many times, I can probably write the script myself. I've seen it so many times. But y'all have seen the movie too, but y'all want to rewrite the script. Y'all want to change and add, subtract. No, I've seen the movie. I can write it myself. I know what it looks like when you don't have it. I know what it looks like when you do have it. This is a bad team. They have a leader. They have two, I believe. Cam, he will become that guy. But you can't start giving away those guys, especially when they're playing really good football. And I mean in Jeffrey Simmons.
One texter says, I'm with Derek 1,000%. You can build something only when you have the right leaders in place. And then there's a quote. I'm more afraid of 1,000 sheep led by one lion than 1,000 lions led by one sheep. I've never heard that one before. Yeah. That's clever.
Mm-hmm, very.
I hear what you're saying, Derek. It's easy for me as someone who has spent time in locker rooms and dressing rooms.
But you know about business. You know about business. So it's not just about the locker room.
I've covered teams. I've been in locker rooms and dressing rooms. That's different, of course, than actually playing. But it's easy for me to dismiss the leadership aspect of it when what you're trying to do is win football games. And we had one texter point out Woody Johnson made that trade because of Madden football. Remember that report that came out last year about him nixing a trade because he didn't like a player's Madden rating? I can't remember which team or which player it was. And it's an interesting point because I do think a lot of us who didn't play do think about it that way sometimes. I used to play a lot of Madden. I used to play a lot of sports games, and GM mode was my favorite because you got to make the trades and set the lineups and all of that stuff. And it's easy when you're just thinking about players as pieces on a chessboard or a checkerboard, and you can just move them around willy-nilly. I hear what you're saying about Jeffrey Simmons and leadership. I do. And you're right. If Jeffrey Simmons weren't on this team would absolutely be devoid of leadership. Cam Ward is a young leader in training. At least I get that vibe. But he's not there yet. L'Jarius Sneed is not a leader. Calvin Ridley is not a leader. Maybe Cody Barton is a leader. But it's certainly not the same strong leadership the Titans had when they were one of the best teams in the AFC. No Kevin Byard, no Derrick Henry, no Ryan Tannehill. I get all that. But when a team is this bad, I sort of disregard all of that. They're going to be bad with or without Jeffrey Simmons.
And that's why, listen, it's not about, for me at least, it's not about whether you played the game, didn't play the game. It's not about that. I think, whether you work in business or not, I mean, I think all of these things, have tentacles. So it's just about leadership, period. So I get the part of, well, let's just move some guys. But I also want people to understand that, listen, I'm not saying that, y'all don't know anything because y'all haven't been in the locker room. Y'all know a bunch of stuff, a bunch of it. But I'm saying that if you got to be careful in the locker room, because talent alone doesn't win you football games. Talent alone doesn't. We've seen it year after year. Talent alone don't win you games. You got to have leadership. Every locker room that I went in, we were successful. We had good leadership. The one locker room I didn't, we were not. So I'm not saying that Calvin Ridley is not a leader. What I'm saying is that Jeff has been here. He's seen it. Ups and the downs. He leads totally different than what a Ridley can lead. Ridley's only been here for a season and 2 seasons, basically. Coming from another place. It's different with him. I'm not looking to him the way I'm looking at Jeffrey Simmons. I'm not looking at all these other guys that they brought in from other teams. No, I'm looking at the guy that they drafted, that they put in the time and the work, on this player. And now he's a damn good player. And now he's become the leader that y'all have wanted him to be for so long. So now that all that happened, it's like, all right, see you later. Titans done that too many times, and we complain about that. A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, whatever. The one time the Titans seem to be doing something that, I get what you want, like people want to trade and picks. I get it. But the one time the Titans are doing, at least right now, what many of y'all wanted them to do with other players, now all of a sudden is a big problem.
615-737-1025. Trevor Maddich will join us coming up next. We'll bring him into this conversation. We'll also take your reaction as well. 615-737-1025. The Mace Vingen and Donick is presented to you by Bax Homeworks. Remodeling done right. Get a free estimate at baxhomeworks.com. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Pleased to be joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Trevor Maddich, who is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, we've been debating the Quinnen Williams trade from the Jets to the Cowboys and whether the Titans should have done the same thing with Jeffrey Simmons. So let me ask you the same question we asked ourselves. If the Jets would have offered, if the Cowboys would have offered you the same package that the Jets did, if the Cowboys would have offered you the same package, the 2026 second round pick, the 2027 first round pick, and a young defensive tackle for Jeffrey Simmons, would you have taken it, yes or no?
In a heartbeat, I would have taken it. And the reason is that this is a team that is years away, so at least several years away, from competing at the highest levels. By that time, I think Jeffrey Simmons will be on the way down. It's one of the reasons I wasn't upset when they allowed Derrick Henry to go, because as much as I loved it for Derrick that he had a chance to go to a contender, in this case Baltimore, I thought it was good for the Titans to free up the cap space to be able to then start to build, because by the time this team is ready to go, Derrick Henry will be, you would assume, on the downward side of the hill of his career. Now, he's such a physical monster that maybe he would last longer that way at the highest levels than people expect. But for most players, and I would include Jeffrey Simmons in this, I think that by the time the Titans get done, their veteran stars are going to be less capable of helping them win. And I think they're much better off using that capital of those players, in this case, Jeffrey Simmons, to bring in younger players that you can build so that when Cam Ward is ready in a few years and when other young guys are reaching their prime, you've got other young guys reaching their prime there as well. Now, having said that, you don't know what's going to happen with draft choices. You could hit on draft choices, you could miss on them, etc. But what we do know is that Jeffrey Simmons can play like Reggie White had a baby with Bruce Smith. And he's the most monstrous defensive lineman in the history of the NFL. And for the next 3 years, this team isn't going anywhere anyhow. And so I think bringing in draft capital would help. That's where I am with that. As much as it would pain me to see such a great Tennessee Titan go.
I want to ask you about the other trade that the New York Jets made today, involving one of the Titans' division rivals. The Jets traded Sauce Gardner to the Colts for 2 first-round picks and A.D. Mitchell. What was your reaction to that deal? Was it a good deal for the Colts?
I thought it was a great deal for the Colts because of where they are right now. The Colts have been basically an also-ran for a long time. And all of a sudden now they've got an offense that's performing at a historic level, at least so far this year. No reason to think that they won't continue to perform at a very, very high level on offense. Their vulnerability is their defense. And giving up 2 first-round draft choices and a receiver, but especially those draft choices, mortgages their future for today. But your window to win a Super Bowl is usually not open for very long unless your name is Tom Brady. The window opens and it closes, and that's it. And I think the Colts believe that right now that window is open because of the serendipity of having the offense come together all at the same time like they have. And they want to maximize what they can do on defense to maximize their opportunity to win a Super Bowl right now. And if that means mortgaging the future, it means mortgaging the future. That's one of the reasons I thought that, especially if he were healthy now, a good possibility would be to trade, for example, Jeffrey to the Bills, who are one of the worst teams in the league at run yards allowed per carry on defense, or Philadelphia, whose defense is not so good right now, or the Steelers, who are leading their division but have one of the worst statistical defenses in the NFL. I thought those were the kind of teams that would mortgage the future in order to get a defensive player that can help them get to the Super Bowl right now. The problem is that Jeffrey is injured, and who knows how long it'll be this year before he's fully healthy again. But when it comes to helping the Colts, I think the Colts, yes, mortgaged their future. And was it a good move? Yes, it was a great move because the window for them has unexpectedly opened. And let's see if they can go through it.
Now, another team, Trevor, that made a trade is the Baltimore Ravens. Obviously, they made the trade with the Tennessee Titans and getting Draymond Jones. I think this is going to end up being a really good move by the Titans because you're talking about a guy that at the beginning of the season, you probably would have gotten maybe a 6th round pick for him if you're trading him then. But he's played so well, in particular, last few games, that you got a guy that you trade away for a 5th that could end up being a 4th round pick. These are the type of moves that the Titans need to make when they're unloading good players, not great ones, but unloading good players, and are getting in return, day 2 picks.
Right. I agree with you on that one, Derek. And the reason is that the situation, right? The Ravens, Lamar Jackson had been injured. They lost a bunch of games. They are still in position to make the playoffs, but they don't have any more time to waste. Their defense has struggled, and by bringing Draymond Jones to hopefully upgrade their pass rush, they're trying to salvage their ability to get to the playoffs and make some noise there. So I thought that was a good trade on both sides for all the things that you said. Look at the Saints. They just traded a tackle to the Chargers. As Titans fans know, both offensive tackles for the Chargers against the Titans last week were injured in the first half. And the Chargers think that they have a team that can make the playoffs and make a run in the playoffs, but not with backup offensive tackles that they had on their roster. So they made this trade. It was good for the Saints because it was a team that wants to win now and was willing to give up more than they probably should have. And it's good for the Saints because this is a team that's not ready to win quite yet, but they got extra capital.
Now, because, the fans have been talking, hey, why didn't the Titans make more moves? Yeah, they traded away one guy. We understand that, there are a faction of the fan base that wanted, Jeffrey Simmons to be a part of a trade deal because he would have garnered the most of any player on this team. But do you think it was just teams looked at the Titans and said, you know what, this is what we'll give you and nothing more? And they chose not to make moves based upon that outside of the Draymond Jones trade? Because there were other guys on like the radar as far as guys that would be traded or had the potential of being traded.
Right. And, one of those guys I thought they would trade is Chig Okonkwo, tight end. He's been showing flashes this year more than he ever really has as a Titan. And it's one of those situations where a contender had a need that Chig might have filled. The Green Bay Packers believe that they could win the Super Bowl this year. Their stud tight end, Tucker Kraft, is injured. He's on injured reserve. I think he's out for the season. And their backup is not a great receiving tight end. Well, as a move tight end who can line up at H-back, in a 2-point stance and then move back and forth across the formation and go down the field as a pass catcher, Chig is a lot better than anything else Green Bay has. And it surprises me that a deal there didn't happen. So that's one of the other players that I thought that had value beyond his production so far because of the need of the other team, but nothing happened. I worry that the Titans, I don't see, let's put it this way, I don't see a clear vision for what they want to do with these trades right now because they trade away 2 young defensive backs for next to nothing. And then their other starting defensive back, Snead, is on injured reserve. And okay, so you show that you were willing to get rid of those DBs, but you're not willing to trade Chig, or maybe you were, but weren't offered enough. It's hard for me to see what the vision is. I can easily see what the Jets' vision is. The Jets' vision is we're not going to win now anyway with Sauce Gardner, cornerback, and Quentin Williams, defensive tackle, even though they're both playing at an all-pro level still. We're not going to win now with them. We're not winning now with them. Let's maximize their value in a trade so that we can build up and win down the road. That's a clear vision. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but you can point it out. With the Titans right now, it's kind of weird with the trades that they've made and the ones that they haven't, without knowing what they were and weren't offered. Maybe they were just offered low ball offers on some of those other players. I don't know, which is why I don't want to definitively say that the Titans are messing up. I'm just saying that I don't see a clear vision right now as to what their trade philosophy is.
We're talking with Trevor Maddich, ESPN, NFL and college analyst. Now, Trevor, this weekend with the Titans, yes, they lost, and I think many people thought they were going to, but I think they played a lot better than I thought they would, especially on defense. Did you see this team or individuals take steps in the right direction? Because again, you look at what the defense was able to do. Cam Ward was okay, wasn't great, but you saw some good things, whether it was from DK, Gunnar Helm, guys like that you are going to depend on moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with you. There were some big plays that were made, and we're not used to seeing that from this Titans team. Cody Barton had that pick six, and it was a great pick six. It was zone coverage. They ran a receiver inside where Barton was, I think, to widen him a little bit in the zone, to make a little space for quarterback to drill that ball into his intended receiver. And Barton didn't take the bait. He was watching the quarterback. And when Justin Herbert was looking at that one receiver the whole time and started his throwing motion, Barton jumped the route, got a pick six. And that's the kind of thing that we're like, wow, what just happened? I mean, I almost thought I was hallucinating that, because you're not used to seeing that for the Titans. The punt return for a touchdown, DK did a great job. I mean, he showed a lot of speed, good moves. He made two guys miss, stepped out of one tackle in making him miss. Really good stuff. But the rest of the guys, the blocking off on the right side where they made that wall was terrific. There were so many outstanding blocks on that punt return. It was crazy. And my thought is, well, okay, where is that going forward? Now the offense didn't score a touchdown. They had 4th and goal at the 1. They couldn't punch it in. The Chargers get the ball and drive it 99 yards for a touchdown, and that was kind of the difference in the game from there. But the offense still is not getting the job done. But to see them rise up and make a few plays once in a while, it does give a glimmer of hope that they could continue with things like that.
Trevor, before we let you go, tonight the first edition of the College Football Playoff Rankings will be released. Yesterday, Derek and I talked about where we think Vanderbilt will fall on the list. Both of us believe that the Commodores will be outside the top 12 after losing at Texas on Saturday. If you were in charge of these rankings, where would you have Vanderbilt in edition number 1?
I think where they are right now is probably where the committee is going to put them. Right now, they sit at 15 in the AP. So I think that's about where they're going to be. The reason is, when you look at their schedule and you look at quality wins, the LSU win doesn't look as good now as it did. The Missouri win does. The Missouri win is a quality win. But other than that, you can't really point to wins. And I think the committee this year, and we're about to find out, we're going to learn what the committee values this year. I think quality wins is going to be a big part of it, based on what some of the insiders like Heather Dinnish that actually talk to these folks will take, or what they'll do. But one thing I'm very interested when it comes to that, and this will affect Vanderbilt as well, is the eye test versus the stats and the numbers and the metrics and things like that. Because Ohio State right now is number 1 AP. A lot of people think that Ohio State is the best team in the country, but they really don't have a quality win right now because of what happened in the Texas game. So they don't, and then Penn State is no longer what we thought they would be. So will the committee have them ranked number 1? I don't know. The best win in the nation so far is Indiana dominating Oregon on the road. And I would think Indiana's got a very good chance of being that number 1 team. Texas A&M doesn't have one win that's like that, but they did beat Notre Dame, but they gave up over 40 points, and there was a squeaker of a game. It wasn't dominating like Indiana over Oregon. But overall, when you look at the strength of record, Texas A&M has the hardest strength of record, which is another one of those metrics that determines what, how difficult your schedule is. I think the committee will give them a lot of credit for that. So if the committee puts Ohio State at number 1, it's good for Vanderbilt, because that means that the committee is less interested in those quality wins than they are the eye test. If they put Ohio State as far back as number 3, then Vanderbilt's going to have to beat Tennessee. Going to have to beat Tennessee in order to make it.
Trevor Matich has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. He joins us every Tuesday, and he is brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, guys.
615-737-1025. We will get back to your reaction. We will also discuss one Titans player who was not moved today, one we spent a lot of time discussing yesterday. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Willie Donick will rejoin us at the top of the hour. Barry Trotz will join us as well for our weekly chat with the Predators GM. Predators at Wild tonight. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6, as always, right here on 1025 The Game. One player who was rumored to be available, who the Titans did not move today ahead of the NFL trade deadline, is T'Vondre Sweat. T'Vondre Sweat is staying put. Jordan Schultz reported earlier today, quote, sources, despite significant league-wide interest, the Titans are not trading T'Vondre Sweat. They view him as a young ascending cornerstone, a key part of their future plans, and have made it clear they're not looking to move him, which is interesting because his name was out there. And that doesn't mean that that was coming from the Titans.
Mhm.
Other teams who spoke to the Titans may have surmised that T'Vondre Sweat was available. I'm glad they didn't trade him because I don't think you were going to get a good return on your investment. Teron Davenport joined us yesterday.
Mhm.
He said a high day 3 draft pick was what he thought the return would be on a high second round pick.
Yeah.
A year ago.
It tells you might as well keep him.
So the Titans keep T'Vondre Sweat for now. And this sort of plays into the leadership thing that you were talking about earlier, right, Derek?
Mm-hmm.
T'Vondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons, as you previously coined them, what was it? Big Jeff and Enormous Sweat.
Yeah.
Big Jeff and Enormous Sweat, the R&B group coming to your local casino, playing all of the hits from the early and mid 90s. It's important, I would assume, for Jeffrey Simmons to be there as a mentor for T'Vondre Sweat. So, despite significant league-wide interest, the Titans have held on to T'Vondre Sweat, which I think is the right decision. You should not give away a young player only in his second year in the league. At the same time, as I say that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded that the Titans did that earlier this season with Jarvis Brownlee,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't like that. So I'm glad that they didn't do the same thing here, at least for now, in deciding to keep T'Vondre Sweat.
Well, I'm, I think this team, is better when both of them are on the field together, meaning Jeffrey Simmons and T'Vondre Sweat. He's been injured. We've chronicled all this yesterday. But even with that, his name was on in trade rumors. The Titans chose to not make a move on him, and I'm glad they didn't. Now the big fella has to, continue to develop into what they thought he could be. I think the further and further we get from that injury, I think the better he will become. But again, it's not about just being better on the field. It's being better in the locker room. And I'm not saying that he's not, but if your name is swirling in, trade talks after your first year, then yeah, it's more than just your production. It's outside of your production. There's something else that could be potentially going on. So I'm glad they didn't trade him. I think he's a guy that can help them ultimately. He can be a building block on what they want to do defensively. So not trading him is a good thing. Now they need more out of him. They need him to start, pick up where he left off last year and be that force in the middle that they need him to be, especially now that Jeffrey Simmons is injured. And, he should want to do it even more now that sort of cloud has been lifted. Jeff's not gone. Now it's like, okay, I get my due back in a couple of weeks. Now we can really, show what we should have shown at the beginning of the season. So I'm glad they kept T'Vondre. I'm glad they kept Jeff. And hopefully, it works out for them, meaning the Titans. Because I know that, again, there are a lot of people that are saying they should have traded Jeff or get what you can. But if you're only getting a day 3 as high as a day 3 pick, that's it. I'm not trading away T'Vondre Sweat for that.
Going back to the Jeffrey Simmons leadership conversation, which is a conversation we had a lot over the summer. One texter wants specific examples from you, Derek, of Jeffrey Simmons exercising his leadership. The texter says, saying the team quit or wasn't ready during practice doesn't exemplify leadership. I believe the texter.
Why doesn't it?
I see this now. Here is one aspect I will agree with you on, Derek. I believe the texter is referring to that story that Michael Silver wrote for The Athletic a few weeks ago, right before the Titans fired Brian Callahan. And I believe there was an anecdote in the story, I don't have it in front of me, that Jeffrey Simmons stopped practice and barked at J.C. Latham over his performance in a drill or something like that. To me, I actually do think that is strong leadership.
That, again, this is what happens when, people are trying to win an argument. Give me a specific incident okay, that's one. And then you would say, well, give me another one. Listen, that one alone, because again, I'm going to do it just for this texter.
Okay.
That alone, because I assume, and I could be wrong, I assume you've never been in an NFL locker room. And this is the only time I'm going to say this and use this. I assume you haven't been in an NFL locker room. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But when you are inside an NFL locker room, a lot of things are not going to be seen. They're not.
Before you continue, I have the story in front of me from Michael Silver. According to several witnesses, Simmons stopped Thursday's practice. So this was a few weeks ago. Simmons stopped Thursday's practice to point out what he considered a poor showing by second-year right tackle J.C. Latham, who had missed the previous 4 weeks with a hip injury. Quote, I've watched you for the last 10 plays, and this ain't it, Simmons told Latham. We need more from you, end quote.
Why? That's leadership. He didn't curse him out. He said, listen, I know you're better than that. What you're giving is not you. We need better. That's the only way we're going to win. We need better from you.
Right. If you want to
point
out the fact that Jeffrey Simmons yelled at our friend Buck Rising, that's not leadership. We can all agree with that. That was not a good example of leadership.
Or him fighting in practice
with Cam Ward.
But that was that was last year.
Well, there was the kerfuffle. Remember, I used the word kerfuffle to describe the tussle.
He and
Cam Ward. That's different.
That is okay. That's nothing.
All right.
That is completely. I wasn't even thinking about that. That's so minute to me.
Fair enough.
In regards to leadership, but no, listen. Believe me. Leaders on Ray Lewis, they went back and forth. It just didn't matter. Whatever. But that's one of those deals where, somebody says something, reporter reports it. That's leadership. But there are a lot of things that we are not privy of. That's just one of them. That's just one of the instances where they make us privy to that. But I know it don't just, I know, like 100% no, that ain't the only stuff that Jeffrey is probably more than likely doing. And I'm not saying I know it because I talked to Jeffrey or I know it because I've been in those locker rooms. There's nothing different. They didn't reinvent the locker room. They didn't add new nuances to a locker room. A locker room is a locker room, no matter where you go. It's like I know what it takes to keep a locker room a certain way, and I know what happens and what can be done to make it a bad environment. When stuff like that comes out, he's not just doing that. But that was just one of the big things. It was like, whoa, okay, he's taking another step. All right, I see you. And somebody then puts it out there. So it's not just that Jeffrey's doing. I promise you that he's doing more. He's showing more leadership. So, yeah, I do think that a guy like that has now matured into his leadership. Don't tell me what he did last year. Don't tell me what he did 2 years. Tell me what he's doing now. How is he changed now? I'm not about yesterdayism. Okay? But I think some people are when they're trying to make their point. It's what is he doing now? What are you doing now? I know what happened in the past, but what are you doing now? He's showing leadership. Okay. He's growing into that what we wanted him to be, and he just wasn't ready to be it. That's all. There's nothing wrong with that at all. He's ready to be that guy now.
615-737-1025. We will get back to this because this is an interesting topic. A lot of you have a lot of reaction to it, so we will get back to it. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, Predators GM Barry Trotz will join us. The team is in Minnesota, where they are preparing to take on the Minnesota Wild. Puck drop at 7, pregame at 6. But before we get to that, Barry Trotz will join us coming up next. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We are awaiting Predators GM Barry Trotz, as well as Willie Donick. Willie Donick will join us momentarily. I believe we actually have Barry Trotz calling in right now. The Predators back in action tonight against the Minnesota Wild, the second half of a back-to-back. The Predators lost last night in overtime to the Vancouver Canucks, and the Predators will look to bounce back tonight against the Wild. And we are joined on our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com, by Predators general manager Barry Trotz. Hi, Barry. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We are doing well. Thank you. Now that we are 14 games into the regular season, I would like you to assess how you believe Andrew Burnett has done so far as head coach. Has he made the adjustments that you asked him to make in the offseason? And where specifically have you seen the biggest growth in him as a coach?
Well, I think the biggest growth is he's changed a lot in their systems in terms of, we've turned over the personnel, number one. You had to get the players to believe again, which I think he has, especially the older group. He's added a lot of young players, which we've asked him to implement in our group. There's probably more rookies have touched the ice this year to this point than we probably had in the last 4 or 5 years combined. So yes, he's checked a lot of boxes. Do we want to win more? Absolutely. But this is a really tough league, and as I said, we're in that group where we're trying to put a lot of young players in, and with our sort of older core.
I want to ask you about one of those younger players in particular, Matthew Wood. Matthew Wood has 5 points in 7 games since making his season debut. And the reason I ask you about Matthew Wood is I would love to know your philosophy when it comes to ice time. Because although Matthew Wood has been productive since getting back into the lineup, he is 10th on the team, among the forwards at least, in average ice time per game over the past 7 games. So how do you see that when it comes to giving ice time? Is it merit-based? Is it because he's a younger player, you're not going to play him as many minutes? How does that work for you?
Well, I think for me, it's you want it to be merit-based, but it's also a little bit of earned, and there's got to be some trust there. I mean, Matthew is a good offensive player. I mean, the one thing I like about Matthew, he still has a lot of drift in his game. As we say, he's a bigger player, so there's times when he, I will say, probably should stop on a puck. We'll maybe do a little bit of a flyby to keep those are some of the junior habits. But those are things that you can live with because they're teachable. I think the way the games play out, if there's, I look back at 2 games back and there's, we're taking 6 or 7 penalties. And there's, he's not on a penalty killing unit, and you're on the second power play, then you get your minutes limited. So I try to look at it as you can't say, hey, this player deserves X amount of minutes this night or every night, because that's not the way the game is played. Different circumstances, but you also want the everything to be as merit-based as possible, and there's a trust factor. A guy like just Michael McCarron late in the game, you have a lot of trust that he's going to be able to do a job for you. He's going to get a lot of those defensive face-offs. He's going to get a lot of that. Maybe the trust is not there with Matthew Wood yet, but the more he plays, the more he's on the team, then hopefully the more he can earn the coach's trust, like any young player with myself or any coach. So, everything is I would say dependent on the situation and dependent on the team. I mean, if you're chasing games, you're probably going to put a guy on that has played a lot more games, scored a lot more goals in the league than maybe a younger player. So everything is a feel, and everything is hopefully on a merit and earned basis. But Matthew has done very, very well in his time on ice, so that's a good thing.
Barry Trotz is with us. Barry, I know that we've been asking you about Steven Stamkos over the past couple of weeks. He's gone 9 consecutive games without a point, which is the second longest drought of his soon-to-be Hall of Fame career. He has 1 point at 5-on-5 in 14 games. Do you have the talent on the roster, specifically at center, to help Stamkos snap out of this funk, or is this what we should expect from him moving forward?
Well, I think no, I don't think I have the center ice position is a strength for us. I don't. I think that's common knowledge. You're not telling me anything I don't know. But I do think Steven Stamkos has enough talent to produce more than he is. The one thing that I would say that any player in Steven's situation, has to evolve, has to find ways to contribute in other ways when he can, and offensively he's used to maybe scoring a few more from that that flank spot. He may have to get into the interior. I can give you a story that I went through when I went to Washington, and Alex Ovechkin I think had 7 games without a point or a goal, longest in his career. And we just played a back-to-back as we're playing right now. And after the game, Ovi came to me and said, "Hey, I want to go on the ice tomorrow." And I said, "It's a day off. I can't have you go on the ice. I can't make you go on the ice or anything." He goes, "No, I want to go. I want to shoot pucks. I'm going to bring some people with me. Can you get the trainers to open up the rink for me?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to do that, but I live close to the rink. I will open up the rink for you." And he spent a few hours on the ice shooting pucks. He brought a goalie friend and someone to pass him the puck. And I mean, he must have shot 200 pucks, and lo and behold, he scored 7 goals in 2 games. So Steven, Steven, just like Ovi, have to find ways to, contribute. And he's never gone through this. I know people are cracking on him, media included, all over. And he probably hasn't had that for a while. So people deal with that differently. So do you sort of fold and get frustrated by it, or do you dig in and say, I'm going to prove everybody wrong? So hopefully Steven has the "I'm going to prove everybody wrong" attitude, and he gets rolling for us. Because can you imagine if he gets rolling and gives us a little offense, and we'd have a few more wins. The power play's starting to come around, and the young guys are starting to come around. So we need everybody to contribute if we're going to be successful.
We'll talk with Barry Trotz, Nashville Predators GM. Now, Barry, your team has played in their share of close games, just like just about every team in hockey. But the good teams find a way to win those close games. What are you seeing in your team because it can't just be as easy as score more goals. If it was that way, if it was that easy, then you would make it happen a lot faster. But what are you seeing from some other teams that maybe you're not seeing from your team, or that you are seeing from your team and that you want to improve as well?
Well, I think we're in that little transition. I mean, there's teams that have the absolute superstars that carry them and find ways to win and carry the load, and that we probably are in a situation where we don't have that, so we've got to do it collectively. I don't know exactly what you're asking, but I'm going to say good example is moments like last night. We're down 2 goals with 12 minutes to go. We got a point out of a game that we probably shouldn't have got a point. Now, could we have 2 points if we were able to go to the shootout? A late mistake by one of our defensemen, and maybe go to a shootout and we get the second point. But we found a way in a situation that we were getting no points to get a point. Mm-hmm. In this league, you've got to collect points. So anytime you have that, then I would say that you're making steps forward.
And you did answer the question, because ultimately that's what it's about, trying to find a way to win some of those close games. And some teams are able to do it, and some teams are just haven't been able to do it as much. Now, where do you miss, because Roman's been out for a while, where do you miss Roman at the most? And is he closer to coming back?
Roman is probably a couple of weeks away. As stated, he's week to week, but he's probably a couple of weeks away. We miss Roman everywhere. I mean, you can't really replace Roman. You just have to, fill in the space with other players, see if they can contribute just a little bit more. But you can't replace a Roman. You'll see he's one of the top defensemen when he's healthy in the league. I mean, he was, a couple of years ago, he's 100-point defenseman. There's not that many of those. Unfortunately, Roman, I think, has only played 50 games for us in the last 2 years. We go as far as Roman Josi goes. Roman is him and Forsberg and Saros are still our cornerstones for this franchise. They're getting older. But at the same time, and we try to supplement with, some veteran guys, and we're trying to fill in with all our young guys that we've drafted. And, we need our young guys to continue to grow, and hopefully the combination of the three, with a little bit of good luck and some good health, we can get a little more consistent and take a run at the number one, the playoffs, and that's we're in the mix right now. So that's what you want to be there. I'd like to be higher up the standings, but we're not, and that's what we're going to try to get to.
Talking with Barry Trotz, Predators general manager, and Barry, this is the 9th game in 15 days for the Predators. That's about as big of a workload as I can remember a Predator team or any team having. How do you think the guys are managing the fatigue level and just this workload right now?
It's been tough on this group. Because we're in a close game every night. We've been trailing some that we've had to fight back in. Last night was a good example of that. I think the guys are managing pretty well, but what you're seeing is they're getting banged up. You're getting guys injured, and you're getting guys mentally fatigued. I mean, you can only crank it up. Yourself, it doesn't matter what, if you're in professional sports or if you're, working non-professional sports and doing other things, and you're asked to crank it up for a real high level for a week. These players have had to do it for a couple of weeks without any rest, going home. And, we got in here last night at 2:30 in the morning after a tough game, and we're going to play a rested opponent who's a good hockey team, and trying to get back in the race. So, it's a daunting task. And then, we're going to get home. We play Thursday, Saturday, Monday, fly to Sweden, play 2 games in Sweden, fly back. So this is a big part of the schedule that has taken a good piece of this hockey team. So they got to stick together.
It looks like Philip Forsberg is starting to get the swagger a little bit. That's always a good sign. He looks, you can tell when he's got the puck, he's hungry. And it looks like Luke Evangelista might be building a little bit of chemistry with him. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think so. I think, there's certain players that can drive a line. A combination of players can be a very effective line. And that's what I think you're finding is Luke is, he's by himself. He can't drive a line. I don't think, Ryan or, Philip, they can, but when they're together and they get a little chemistry, they're a really good line. That's what you're looking for, hopefully, in the Stamkos, Marchessault, and Haller line. Three veteran guys, but Holly can give him a little bit of speed and savvy in the middle. I mean, he's been a productive player in the middle. Marchessault is the guy around the net that also can make some plays. So, and Stammer's the shooter. So hopefully that line can get going. Michael Bunting's been hot lately. I think Svechkov, after being sat out a healthy scratch a couple games back. I think he's working really well. He's just not getting an introduction right now. So, and then he's with Matthew Wood. So there's, a couple of young guys playing together, and that line is finding ways to produce. And then obviously Mike McCarron is him and Smitty have been Batman and Robin on that fourth line and give us some physicality. We've gotten a little bit small on the at forward without some of our players. So Smitty's got Yost or LaRue in the lineup with Weisblatt, and Ozzy is a smaller player, but plays a bigger game, and hopefully we can get contributions through all of our forwards, and then on defense, I think obviously Spencer Stastny's probably showing a little bit more offense than we expected, and playing really well. Him and Justin Barron are I think having a good stretch here. Brady Shea and Nick Perbix have been pretty solid all year for us for the most part. And then Nick Blankenberg's come in and been doing what he's always done in the past. Nick Perbix, who came in, is trying to catch the train a little bit. We need his game to probably elevate a little bit here. It's tough when you start missing all the training camp or a good piece of training camp and the start of the season. So he's trying to catch up a little bit.
Predators GM Barry Trotz has been our guest on D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick. He joins us every Tuesday during hockey season. Barry, thank you so much for your time. As always, good luck tonight.
All right, thank you.
615-737-1025. Predators back in action tonight at 7 o'clock against the Minnesota Wild. Pregame starts at 6 with Chase McCabe right here on 1025 The Game. We will get back into the NFL trade deadline coming up next. An interesting report was floating around social media today involving the Titans and perhaps a jilted lover. We'll discuss that coming up next. 615-737-1025. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick is presented by Bax Homeworks. Financing options are available to make your remodel easier than you think. With Bax Homeworks, get a free estimate at baxhomeworks.com.
Derek Mason here. If you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. They understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event or if they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Willie Donick is off to prepare to call the game. Willie Donick feeling a bit under the weather, as you can hear.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help when you're sick and you need your voice and you're a play-by-play broadcaster who also does radio work 5 days a week. So Willie's a trooper. Kudos to Willie. He's powering through. You can hear him on the call on FanDuel Sports Network starting at 7 o'clock. You can also hear the radio call of that game, also starting at 7 o'clock, right here on 1025 The Game. Terry on our text line asked if Willie and Mace, meaning C Mace, not D Mace, asking if Willie and C Mace are going to Sweden. Yes, Willie and Chris, I believe, will be going to Sweden with the Predators. They travel early next week. They play the Penguins late next week in 2 games in Stockholm, Sweden. I tried to convince Willie to do the show from Sweden, but Stockholm's like 7 or 8 hours ahead of us. So he would be going live on the air at 10 p.m.
Yeah, he
can make it.
Getting ready to go to sleep by then. Are they?
I think he should try to do it at least once.
Is it a national game? Or is
No,
it still
they're
Willie
not.
and them still would be doing
It will be on
play-by-play?
FanDuel Sports
Okay,
Network.
all right.
So you can still watch those games in Sweden on FanDuel Sports Network with Willie Donick and Chris Mason. But yes, Willie will be traveling to Sweden. So it'll be Derek and I
Yes.
for most of next week, which is okay.
Yeah, it's
We're
good.
having some fun today.
Yeah.
Derek's getting mad at people.
Yeah, I'm getting in
That's the best kind of Derek Mason. When Derek gets mad,
I don't get mad.
don't-
you
get fired up.
I get irritated a little.
It's
It doesn't last long.
close
though.
enough to mad. It's close enough to mad. As I said, one of my goals every show is to push your buttons or Willie's buttons. And it's easier to push your buttons than it is to push Willie's buttons. But there are certain topics that get the two of you going, as we were discussing Jeffrey Simmons earlier in the program. And we will continue to talk about Jeffrey Simmons because the Titans did not trade Jeffrey Simmons. That is not a surprise. The Titans telegraphed that they were not trading Jeffrey Simmons by telling multiple insiders that they were not trading Jeffrey Simmons. And yet, the New York Jets traded Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys today for a second-round pick, a first-round pick, and a young defensive tackle. Less so about the young defensive tackle, Mozzie Smith, more so about the second-round pick and the first-round pick. And Willie and I were clearly on board with this idea that if the Cowboys had made the same offer to the Titans for Jeffrey Simmons, we would have taken it in a heartbeat. Derek Mason said, hell no, I want 2 first-round picks or don't even bother calling.
Yeah.
But I do want to touch on an interesting report that I saw on social media today about the Titans and the New England Patriots. The Titans didn't make a trade with the New England Patriots today. Last week when we played Matchmaker, I thought the Titans could make a trade with the New England Patriots. I had Arden Key going to the New England Patriots. Arden Key still in Tennessee. By the way, now that Draymond Jones is gone off to Baltimore and Femi Oladejo is injured, and the Titans' options at edge defender are Arden Key. Well, he's injured too. Jihad Ward, Jalen Harrell, and Ali Gay.
Well, Young Bucks got to step up.
I'm not sure how many more sacks the Tennessee Titans are going to have this season with that group. But let's get back to what I was meaning to talk about. Mike Giardi of Boston Sports Journal. Mike Giardi is a veteran reporter based in New England who has covered the Patriots for a long time. And he had, I want to say it was like a running blog, like a live blog of the Patriots trade deadline. And there was this little blurb just shoved in there. Quote, I, meaning Giardi, I was also told there has been some conversation league-wide that Tennessee might be unwilling to make deals with New England because the owner, Amy Adams Strunk, continues to think too much about how things ended with Mike Vrabel and is not inclined to help his new team.
Well, she probably is not the first. If indeed that's the case, she probably wouldn't be the first owner that have, chosen to do business that way. Unless there's credible sources that come out about something like that, then it's a rumor, it's a story. I want to believe that, listen, if it could help her team, then that's what she's going to do. That's what I want to believe. But then again, it could be the opposite. But I'm not going to make too much of that. That's just one of those things where, it's out there in a fan base that's already bloodthirsty. It just adds to it. Like, she didn't, oh my goodness. So now she doesn't want to make a trade with New England because of Vrabel. Oh man, she shouldn't be the owner. That's what I mean. It's just more. It's more raw meat for the base. More rare meat for the base. So, it's one of those things that are going to happen. I hope that's not the case. I hope that if New England came to the table with a sensible offer for a player, that they thought about it. At least thought about it and not just, oh, it's New England, don't even pick up the phone. I hope that's not the case.
So let's do one of our favorite things after the NFL trade deadline, winners and losers, quickly. I'll tell you who was a big fat loser, not personally, but just because of the situation. Denard Wilson. Denard Wilson is a big fat loser, and that's going to be taken out of context. But what I mean by that is he's lost Jarvis Brownlee. He's lost Roger McCreary. He's lost Draymond Jones. Jeffrey Simmons is injured. Arden Key is injured.
Sneed's gone for the season.
Sneed is MIA. Yeah. Femi Oladejo is hurt. Mm-hmm. I just read to you the remaining healthy edge rushers, and Jihad Ward did have a good game against the Chargers. But it's a losing proposition for Denard Wilson. He has a uphill battle anyway, an uphill climb to keep his job past the season. And now he's going to have to make chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what happens when you're on a bad team. You're coaching a bad team. But, man, I am curious about how the defense is going to look. Sort of like when you're driving past a car wreck. You don't want to look, but you can't help but look. And when you look at the remaining players on defense, now you hope that Jeffrey Simmons is healthy. He comes back eventually. Mm-hmm. But no Brownlee, no Jones, no McCreary, no Sneed, no Oladejo. Right now, no Simmons. I mean, Denard Wilson can't win. I mean, you can ask one of the best defensive coaches in the league to try to win with that group, and you're not going to do very well.
You sound like the old, what was the group? Destiny's Child. No, 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 no. It's like no across the board for those guys not playing. No, he's not playing. No, he's not playing. No. So it's just, I mean, you're right. Denard Wilson, he got the short end of the stick, but also, this is an opportunity. He can see this as an opportunity, like he did last week. It's not about players anymore now because they're playing with, guys that are backup guys. Majority of these guys are guys that didn't plan to have this big of a role. So now he's playing, with backup guys. And sometimes, hey, listen, it works out. Sometimes you don't realize what type of player you have unless an injury happens and that player is forced to play. It happened in my situation. I was forced to play, and the rest was history. So this is an opportunity for Denard Wilson to show his worth. He was able to do it last week at times because he doesn't have the players to just straight up play. Let's just play man on man, 11 on 11. See who bet. He doesn't have the guys for that. Now it's all about how is his imagination, his scheme. How is he going to, scheme up sacks? How is he going to put his guys in the best possible position he can put them in to succeed, knowing that these guys aren't guys that you thought were going to be your starters this year? These were guys, some of these guys you thought it was going to be good for them to be backups or special teams guys so they can develop into a role. But that role has been expedited for them. So this is an opportunity for him, like he did last week, to show, hey, I know what I'm doing. I just don't have the guys to consistently do it.
One texter says, hey, Adam, ain't no rubbernecking on the interstate. Keep it moving. Yes, that's how I feel about the national media when they see the Titans. Just keep it moving, and we know how bad we are. Don't need to say anything.
I'm with that texter. When I see people rubbernecking, I'm like, if you're not going to stop and help, just keep driving. You can drive at a pace, but not constantly look back.
Well, if I am driving at full speed on the highway, I am not slowing down. But if
Some
you're,
people do.
But if you're stuck in traffic
Yeah.
and you're moving slowly and you see there's an accident, you take a peek
Yeah.
while you're driving by slowly. I'm
Mhm.
not doing it at high speed.
No, but then some people look again, and then as they get past it, they look back. I'm like, why are you looking back? It's good while it's in front of you to look at it or on the side, but then after that, you're done. Even on the side, it's kind of not advised, because the minute you look to the right or the left, you're taking your eyes off of what's in front of you. And when it's an accident, people are stopping. So you shouldn't do that.
What do you make of the Colts trading for Sauce Gardner?
Oh, man.
I also feel terrible now for Cam Ward,
Mhm.
because there are some good corners in the AFC South. You have Derek Stingley Jr. in Houston.
Mhm.
Now you have Sauce Gardner in Indianapolis. And I know that Gardner, maybe he hasn't played as well in the past couple of years as he did when he first entered the NFL. He was a first team All-Pro in each of his first 2 seasons.
Mhm.
So high standards for Sauce Gardner. But what do you make of the fit? And what do you make of what the Colts gave up? 2 first-round picks and A.D. Mitchell. Now, the Colts can give up a young receiver
Mhm.
in A.D. Mitchell because they have drafted well,
Mhm.
and they have Michael Pittman, and they have Alec Pierce, and they have Josh Downs. So A.D. Mitchell, kind of a luxury.
Expendable.
Right. So what do you make of the move, how much it cost, and the fit for the Colts?
The Colts are playing the LA Rams right now. You know what? Forget those picks.
F them picks.
We are primed for a run right now. Yeah, I know what happened in Pittsburgh, Monday night. I get that. But we are primed and ready to make a run right now. So you know what? This ain't about tomorrow. This is about now. Forget those picks. Give me Sauce Gardner. I give up the picks that I need to give up, because I believe we are one guy away on defense to really, being the front runner in the AFC as far as making it to the Super Bowl. Because that's what this trade was about. Making it to the Super Bowl, making sure that they can go toe-to-toe with Kansas City, Buffalo. I'm talking about coverage-wise. Buffalo, Baltimore, teams like that. The Rams, the Raiders, the Chargers.
The Chargers.
Teams that love to throw the football. You got to have guys either that's going to get to the quarterback very quickly or that can cover on the outside. Sauce Gardner has proven he's one of those guys, even though he's not what he was his first 2 years, but they believe he can be there still. It's just about, he's a good player, an elite player, but how does he fit in this system? That's what they will find out now. As far as, I think it was a great move by the Indianapolis Colts, because they are a team that's not like, oh, if we don't win this year, then we got to clear the debt. Again, I'm gonna give you some names: Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Tyler Warren, um, Quentin Nelson. Just basically their whole offensive line. What do all those guys have in common?
They were drafted.
They all were drafted, and they're all signing their next. They've either signed another deal or they're working on signing another deal. So they believe they can give away a pick or two, because these young guys they're developing into the cornerstones and teams that they believe can win a Super Bowl. So it's like the Rams. Here, take my picks. I want your player, because I'm closer to winning the Super Bowl than I'm further away.
615-737-1025. We'll take all of your thoughts on the NFL trade deadline. The Titans made one trade yesterday, sending Draymond Jones to the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, earlier in the season, they traded Jarvis Brownlee and they traded Roger McCreary, but Draymond Jones out the door yesterday. No other moves made. So all of the trades you hope the Titans would make, they didn't make them. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show next. Derek Mason, Adam Vingen. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Predators pregame coming up next with Chase McCabe. Predators at Wild tonight at 7 o'clock. We'll see if the Predators can bounce back from their buzzer beater loss in overtime last night to the Vancouver Canucks. Derek, I want to make a declaration.
Yes.
Tom Brady is the least relatable person on planet Earth. He just is. He just is. There's just something about Tom Brady. You said it during the break. You said it well. People can relate to Peyton Manning,
Eli Manning,
even Tony Romo, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the Mannings, they're funny. They've got that aw shucks personality. You feel like you can sit down with them on the couch during the Manning cast and have a great time. Tom Brady does not seem like fun at all.
Yeah.
No fun, sir. And today I saw a story where he claimed that his dog is a clone. And I just said, this is the most Tom Brady thing I think I've ever read. Even more so than the TB12 method crap and all that other stuff. It's just, let me just read to you this story from ESPN.com. Tom Brady says his dog is a clone. The 6-time Super Bowl winning quarterback and current Fox Sports broadcaster said Tuesday in a statement from a company he is an investor in that his dog Junie is a clone of his late dog Lua. Colossal is the name of the company, which aims to quote unquote fix extinction, which sounds like the plot from the next Jurassic World movie, among other goals, is said to be valued at $10 billion and that this is its first major acquisition.
This is all about money, man. That's all it's about. Because again, it's one of these deals where I understand why he did it. I understand why he made it public, because he's an investor in it. And, he hopes, because he said, and he's Tom Brady, that there will be others that will follow suit. I think that's a little creepy to me. I'm not looking at my 2 dogs passed away within the last year, and I'm not looking to, clone Lexi or Ginger. That's too creepy for me. But I don't understand why people invite stuff like this. Like, did nobody ask you whether you cloned your dog or not? You just I know why you put it out there, but it's just like one of those things again. Who relates to that?
Nobody.
Except you got $1 billion.
Nobody can relate to
That's
Tom
who
Brady.
relate to cloning dogs. You got a lot of money, so you want to clone your dog. Nobody else relates to that.
I can't imagine what it would be like to try to make small talk with Tom Brady. Hey, Tom, how are you? Oh, I'm good. I just cloned my dog. I can't do anything with that.
Well, I would then ask follow-up questions.
Like, are you crazy?
Yeah, that too. What made you do that? Do you think that, is it cloning humans next? I would ask him a bunch of questions, but it wouldn't be fun. It would just be, okay, Tom, you did it. Why you do it? I'm asking a question. But beside that, I'm like, okay.
This sounds like the plot of a movie. Again, I mentioned Jurassic World. Billionaire invests in a company that tries to quote unquote fix extinction. And somebody finds some dino DNA and gives it to Tom Brady. And the next thing you know, dinosaurs are roaming the earth once again, and we're all done for. Just because Tom Brady needs to clone his damn dog. I don't know. Okay. I just had to get that off my chest. I just thought to myself, there is no one more unrelatable on planet Earth than Tom Brady.
Well, because I didn't read the story today and say, oh, I'm going to clone my dog too.
Yes.
Let me call his place. And I know you didn't. I'm sure David didn't.
No,
I'm sure Willie didn't. There are a bunch of people like us that didn't wake up and read that story and said, I'm going to inquire about this company and see if I can clone my dog. No, nobody thought about that.
Pass.
Yeah. That's creepy to me. That's a little bit too much for me, man.
Skylar on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says the Sauce Gardner trade was the crazy one. I like Gardner, but not for 2 firsts. And AD Mitchell, who was a 2nd-round pick last year. Merle from Mount Juliet says Sauce is still a young cat why has he took a step back lately?
You know, and that's what I was wondering about Sauce Gardner. It was like, man, he came off like game. It was just like, man, he just hit and he was just everywhere. And this kid was playing his tail off. He had so much swag and he was just had that arrogance about him that you need to have to play that position. And then all of a sudden it just flipped.
So
Like
here's
the
some
switch cut off and you didn't hear about him no more other than getting hurt or getting burned.
So he was the defensive rookie of the year in 2022. He led the NFL that season with 20 passes defended. He is the only cornerback since the NFL AFL merger in 1970 to be named first team All-Pro in each of his first 2 seasons. Last season, he had a career low 7 pass breakups and a career high 4 defensive pass interference penalties.
How many games did he play last year? He was hurt last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Sauce Gardner played.
Or did he play the whole season?
15 games
Okay,
last
he missed
season.
2 games. I don't know what happened. Maybe because he may be dealing with what everybody else on the Jets are dealing with. The constant, just dumpster fire around and dismissing, firing coaches, hiring new ones, and defensive schemes changing. So maybe he was just a product of what was happening with the Jets. And if that is indeed the case, then I feel bad for everybody that ends up playing in Indianapolis Colts. Because if the environment was the reason why his play didn't flourish like it did the first 2 years, and he's in a much better environment now, man, oh man, if they are not the favorites to make it to the playoff, to make it to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, they got to be a top 2 or 3.
The Titans don't have to see the Colts again this season, so we won't see Sauce Gardner against the Titans.
But he's a
until
Detroit
next
product,
season.
so I'm gonna stay down with him. But he hadn't played well. He hadn't been playing well outside of his first 2 seasons. So,
some fancy stats for you.
Mm-hmm.
This season, according to ESPN, this season has been his worst as a pro so far. He's surrendering a completion percentage 11.1% over expectation and a passer rating of 118.8 when targeted.
It's getting toasted. That's what's happening. And again, I'm sure Indianapolis believes it's more about the environment than it is about the actual player. So if that is indeed the case, then we are going to see a different Sauce Gardner. We're going to see the Sauce Gardner that we saw the first 2 years rather than what he has looked like with the Jets. Because, listen, things haven't. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. He looked bad with the Jets. Look at him now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are what, 6-3?
That sounds right.
Yeah, they're 6-3 now.
Or 5-3.
5-3 season. Just beat Indianapolis. So maybe it wasn't the player. Maybe it was the organization.
Yeah, the Jets have a way of making you stink out loud. Let's quickly go to Steve on our phone line. Steve, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
I got a question about the Predators. When they go 3-on-3, why don't we have wingers and centers out there? Because they usually have better stick skills and they're much faster and more agile. And I'll hang up and listen what your comments are. Thanks. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Good question. I'm not sure how the Predators' deployment on 3-on-3 compares to other teams. Teams like to have defensemen on the ice because if there's a break the other way, would you rather have Roman Josi defending a 2-on-1 rush or Luke Evangelista defending a 2-on-1 rush?
Josi.
Probably Roman Josi. I know he's hurt. Barry Trotz said
Yes.
earlier that he's still a few weeks away at least. But the Predators lost last night on a turnover right in front of the net. Brock Besser scores at the buzzer to give the Vancouver Canucks a 5-4 overtime win at Bridgestone Arena. The Predators are back in action in just about an hour or so. They're up in Minnesota to take on former Predators coach John Hines in the Minnesota Wild. The Wild 4-6-3 on the season. It's been a rough start for the Wild this season. So that's a good question, Steve. I'd have to look more deeply into it to see how the Predators' deployment compares to other teams, but I don't think it's uncommon for teams to have defensemen on the ice. You saw last night, Quinn Hughes. I don't know if Quinn Hughes left the ice for the Vancouver Canucks during the 3-on-3 because he's so dynamic. When the Predators when Roman Josi is healthy, he's out there quite a bit for the Predators as well. But we'll see how the Predators do tonight.
Mm-hmm.
They won't have Derek Mason cranking the air horn,
Man.
but he will be doing so in spirit.
Exactly.
As the Predators take on the Wild on the road. Chase McCabe has pregame for you coming up in just a few minutes. And then, of course, Max Hers and Hal Gill will have the call live from St. Paul, Minnesota. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. We have Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow at 5. Silly Underdog Picks returns at 5:20. We'll react to Mike Borgonzi's post-trade deadline news conference. We'll talk CFP rankings. A lot more to discuss. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 3.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Tuesday. Again, I love you. The team loves you. You hear that music? Don't you forget about us, because we will be back tomorrow at 3 on 102.5 The Game. Peace.